God is good
All the time.
and all the time.
God is good.
Amen. Abraham Lincoln once said that America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we've destroyed ourselves. I'm not worried about liberals ruining America. I'm not worried about conservatives ruining America. I'm not worried about being political myself. That's not what I'm worried about. I'll let the cat out of the bag. Here is what I am worried about. Here's the direction that I'm going. I'm worried about how we talk about each other and how we talk to each other. The things that we say about each other and the way that we say it to each other as a nation when we disagree. I think that we have a huge problem, and if we don't do something about it, I think things are going to get worse. For example, the Mueller reports. I don't know what your thoughts are about it. We haven't trusted government since Watergate, right? I think we've had a problem trusting government, trusting authority, and now we've got the Mueller report. I don't know what your thoughts are, and I'm not really concerned about it. And today is not about the Mueller report. Today is about how we use information about others and the way we decide to talk about it and to talk about others. I think our nation is facing a greater divide than the Civil War, greater divide than how we handled civil rights in the 60s. I think that our country is divided and it's becoming more divisive, and I think that as Christians we play a role in either helping or hurting it, and I believe the influence of how our country handles divisive topics impacts us in the church and in our home. So we're faced with a great divide right now in our country, and it's either you have to believe one side or another. It seems like we're constantly forced to take sides, with things being on the left, things being on the right, things being liberal, things being conservative. We're constantly forced to choose sides. And I'm going to ask you what it is that's fueling the divisiveness. What is it that fuels the controversies in America? What is it that is separating people? It's a simple answer. What do you think is keeping us divided and dividing us further? I'll throw it out there. What do you think it is, and I'll tell you what I think it is.
Pride.
Pride. I think there's a lot of pride out there. I think that prevents people from finding solutions. That's a great answer. Hate. I think hate is dividing us. What do you think is fueling the hate? What's
the press? Satan.
Satan, the press, jealousy.
Leaven.
Those are, huh?
Leaven.
A little leaven. Leaven's the whole lump.
Influence.
I believe gossip and slander are the tools that are being utilized to perpetuate the hate. I think that's the tool that Satan's using. I think that's what's being leveraged as influence. If I can gossip, if I can slander, I can tear people apart. Do you know, here's a truth about life. If you habitually lie and talk bad about other people and slander them, pretty soon you assume everyone else lies, right? So if I constantly am in the habit of lying, pretty soon I can't trust others. Because in my mind, if I'm lying all the time, then they're lying all the time. If I'm in the habit of always talking about other people poorly, disparagingly, I'm going to think that behind my back they're talking about me. But on top of that, it becomes an acceptable form of behavior. And eventually, what is wrong with gossip? What is wrong with slander? It may be true, it may not be true. Sometimes when we gossip, it is true. It just, we shouldn't be sharing it. In the end, it destroys community. In the end, talking poorly about other people, whether it's right or wrong, destroys the community. whether you believe in Christianity or not, whether you value what the church universal is, I believe you still value community. Even if you're an introverted person, you still can recognize the value of when a community is bonded and united and is strong. So whether you believe in spirituality, whether you believe in Christianity, whether you hold the Bible to be true, you still need to be aware of the dangers of gossip. Now, I'm bringing up things like the Mueller report and Watergate and Nixon, this political idea, because right or wrong, what happens at a government level, the mood, the tone of the leaders in high places always trickles down. It always will influence us. And so, if our leaders in the highest political offices are smack talking and talking trash about each other, pretty soon you're going to get on Facebook. Believe it or not, one day you're going to see people arguing on Facebook about politics. Oh, you think it already happened? Well, pretty soon you're going to see people at work standing around the proverbial water cooler disagreeing. Well, that already happens? Well, pretty soon people at the dinner table are going to have disagreements. Pretty soon when it comes to holidays like Thanksgiving, Christmas, you won't be able to talk about politics or religion. Oh, that already happened. Pretty soon, and this one hasn't happened yet, pretty soon you won't be able to voice your opinion because whatever you disagree with is going to be labeled as a hate crime. And I guarantee you that day is coming if we don't get things under control. You'll not be able to speak what you believe to be true because whatever you say will be labeled as a hate crime and you will be breaking a law just by saying the things that you believe. Because that is how our culture responds to everything that can't be controlled. We'll legislate something to try to control it. And right now, we're out of control with the way that we talk, the way that we gossip, the way that we slander. So, why do we have a weakness for gossip? Why is it as soon as I say, like next week Carl will be out of town, and if I got up and I say, hey, Carl's not here, let me tell you something about Carl, you kind of lean in. Why is that? Why is it that we love to listen to gossip? Why is it that we can't control ourselves when we know something about someone else and we got to tell someone so that they can pray more intelligently, right? Why is that? Proverbs chapter 18 says, a fool's mouth is his ruin. In other words, the things that he says is going to be destroying him. And his lips are a snare to his soul. The words of a whisperer, that's another word for a gossiper. The words of a gossip, the words of a whisperer, are like delicious morsels, those tastiest treats, you know. When you go to Aubrey's, I love that restaurant, and you get the appetizer, the filet mignon medallions or whatever they're called. It's an appetizer with like chunks of filet mignon and gnocchi and mushrooms and asparagus and this incredible brown gravy. It is so good. You should go there just to get that sometime. That's what the gossip is like. It's the tastiest thing that you could think of. And they go down into the inner parts of the body. Why do we love to share gossip and to hear gossip? I don't know exactly. I think part of it is it takes the focus off of my problems. If I can think what a reprobate you are, I don't have to confront myself. I don't have to try to think about the mistakes I make or the things I have to change. Maybe it's that misery loves company, and if I'm making mistakes, then I love to hear others are. I don't know. But I do know that we have a weakness for gossip, and we need to be on guard for it. So what is wrong with gossip? What is wrong with slander? What's wrong with just dragging people through the mud? Really, what's wrong with it? Proverbs 26, and this is the main passage that I want us to focus on. Verse 17, whoever meddles in a quarrel, not his own, is like one who takes a passing dog by the ears. So if you hear about an argument, you hear about something that someone is saying bad about someone else, you hear about that, and you get yourself interjected into that, you enter that, you're about as smart as someone who sees a dog going by that you don't know, it's not your dog, and you grab it by the ears. What's going to happen when you do that? Remember, back then there weren't chihuahuas. There weren't little toy poodles. Right? These are big dogs. Like a madman who throws firebrands, arrows, and death, is the man who deceives his neighbors and says, I'm only joking. So as you're saying things that aren't true, you're throwing things out. Verse 20, for lack of wood the fire goes out, and where there is no whisperer, where there isn't gossip, where there isn't slander, right? Quarrelings cease. If we wouldn't keep talking, the conflict would die down. As charcoal to hot embers and wood to fire, so is a quarrelsome man for kindling strife. So people who like to stir up junk, people like to stir the pot, they keep the conflict going. I don't care if you listen to Fox News, I don't care if you listen to NPR News, I don't care what your favorite media is. Everybody right now on the TV and on the radio is stirring the pot. They're causing you to choose sides. The words of the whisperer, here we go again, are like delicious morsels. They go down into the inner parts of the body. Like glaze covering an earthen vessel, are fervent lips with an evil heart. It looks shiny, it looks polished, it looks great, but it's hiding something underneath. Verse 24, whoever hates, you're hating other people, you want to slander them, disguises himself with his lips and harbors deceit in his heart. When he speaks graciously, believe him not. There are 7 abominations in his heart. That's a way of, in Hebrew, saying perfection. That word 7. So he has perfected evil and wickedness in his heart. Though his hatred be covered with deception, his wickedness will be exposed in the assembly. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it, and a stone will come back on him who starts rolling it. A lying tongue hates his victims, and a flattering mouth works ruin. So what's wrong with a little bit of slander? Everything. Gossip, slander, it causes hatred. It's based in deception. Even if what you're saying is true, your motives are deceptive. And it comes back to ruin those who share the wickedness, who share the slander, who cause the strife. And in the end, again, in case the idea that I'm sharing earlier slips your mind, it destroys community. Eventually, gossip and slander destroys community. And I think it's going to destroy our country. You know, I'm not worried about the KGB infiltrating the FBI. You know, I'm not worried about Russia dropping a bomb on us or North Korea launching a missile on us. I'm not worried about a military stronger than ours invading us and conquering us and making us learn their language. Those types of scenarios do not disturb me at all. I am worried about the way our leaders talk about each other and against each other, and the way that trickles down and influences the rest of us. You've got to be on guard. So, Proverbs 11, same thing. The righteous is delivered from the trouble. The wicked walks into it instead. With his mouth, the godless man would destroy his neighbor. But by the knowledge of righteous, but by knowledge the righteous are delivered. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices. When the wicked perish, there are shouts of gladness. Verse 11, by the blessings of the upright, a city is exalted, but by the mouth of the wicked, it is overthrown. Slander, gossip, bad stuff. Whoever belittles his neighbor lacks sense, but a man of understanding remains silent. Whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy in spirit keeps a thing covered. Where there is no guidance, the people falls, but in the abundance of counselors there is safety. The community destroyed do the wickedness. Proverbs 16, a worthless man plots evil, and his speech is like a scorching fire. A dishonest man spreads strife, and a whisperer separates close friends. A man of violence entices his neighbor and leads him in a way that's not good. Whoever winks his eye plans dishonest things. He who purses his lips brings evil to pass. What's wrong with a little bit of slander? It destroys. So, what can you and I do? What are some of the choices that are facing us right now? When you think about mass media, when you think about our government leaders, when you think about the influence of gossip, what can we do? Well, there's a fire. Proverbs, almost every one of those passages talked about some type of fire being thrown, scorching fire. You could, well, just observe. You could get out your s'mores, you could roast your hot dog, and you could sit there by the fire and just observe, right? You don't really have to do anything, but just make yourself peaceful, comfortable, and just watch what's going on. Or you could throw a little more gas on the fire. You could participate in the conversation. I mean, after all, are there any honest politicians? Right? Let's just talk bad about some of our government leaders, right? Is that going to help anything? We could sit there and we could stir the pot more. I could throw a little bit of gas on the fire. Or I could choose to make a difference. I could just observe, be a passive observer. I mean, actually, I'm not really participating in the problem, right? I'm not really contributing to it. Is that not okay, just to sit back and watch it? Don't we have good Samaritan laws in this nation? If you see someone being hurt or in trouble, don't we have an obligation to help them? Do I want to participate, or do I want to try to help extinguish the fire? If I just sit back and I don't do anything about the slander, or if I participate in it, I'm not really making a difference for good. How do I help put the fire out? How do I, as a child of God, begin to make a difference when it's culturally and socially acceptable? In fact, it's celebrated. In fact, it's rewarded in our nation to be able to just trash other people. You watch things like the Oscars, and when people receive their award, do they get up and talk about all the other artists that help them get there, or what do? Talk about all the problems that they see in America. You go to a rock concert, does the musician get up and talk about how great it was as a kid, or do they talk about all the problems in our country? When you see politicians get up, what do they talk about how great their grandmother was, or do they talk about all the problems of the other side? How do I make a difference? Here's what I believe is needed. We have to begin to give more grace to others. You probably think you are a grace-giving person. When people make mistakes, when people offend, when people simply mess up, you probably think, yes, I extend grace to them. We have to give more than what we think we're already giving. That's a number one step. I mean, it's easy to tear things apart. I'll never forget when I was in the 4th grade, my parents bought me a motorcycle. My brother, who was 4 years older, they bought him a motorcycle. I rode the wheels off of my motorcycle, dirt bike, up and down the train tracks, through all the cornfields. My brother took his motorcycle in his bedroom and he took it apart. And he never put it back together again. He was kind of mechanically inclined, like to work on things. It's easy to take anything apart. It's hard to fix. It's hard to put things back together. We need to concentrate on solutions, not just breaking other people down, not just pointing out their faults, not just showing where they've made a mistake. That's easy to do. It's easy to be a critic. It's hard to be a creator. Almost anyone can criticize the works, the efforts, the ideas, the plans of others. but to actually come up with solutions. And I believe we're called to do that. I also think we need to be consistent in what we expect out of others compared to ourselves. It's really easy to expect perfection out of someone. It's easy to expect people to perform and to live up to their potential without doing so ourselves. I imagine that's probably at the root of a lot of relationship problems. We need to begin to embrace respectful dialogue. Do you know what the word dialogue means? If you were just to break it down, when you think of the phrase in math, what's dia usually referred to? What's it referred to?
Going across?
Going across, going through, right? Diagram, I'm going to go through something. Right? Log, what is that from? The Greek word for logos, which is what? Word or logic. You realize dialogue means to go through words, to go through logic, to use that. We never dialogue, what do? We talk down, we talk over others, and we have a response already formulated in our mind before they can answer us. That's how politics and the media and the press have taught us to interact with each other. It's no wonder we can't solve anything. Because we talk over and we talk through and we talk down to. So I believe we need respectful dialogue. It's okay to have a disagreement with someone, politically, theologically, whatever. But it's not okay to be disrespectful or to be slanderous. So, one last piece of advice as I wrap up here. Because now after talking about those filet bites, I'm really super hungry now. I'm very hungry. I've said this 1,000 times, Lord willing, I'll say it 1,000 more times. You will be like the people you hang around with. 1 Corinthians 15:33, do not be deceived, bad company corrupts good character, good morals. You'll be just like the people that you hang around with. Now, if I were to ask you, now the answer should be Jesus, but most people don't think of Jesus. They think of someone in the 20th century. If I were to ask you, who's the smartest person in the world, who do we most, Christians, non-Christians, scientists, street sweepers, who does everyone say is the smartest person? Huh? Einstein. Thank you, Mom. Albert Einstein. If Albert Einstein said something, would you listen to him? Would you at least give it some consideration? Simple, Carl. Yes or no? Yeah. Okay. I know you're thinking about Big Blue at 2:20 today. Right now, you need to be thinking about your future, okay?
What would Einstein say?
What would Einstein say? Einstein says, stay away from negative people. They have a problem for every solution.